You know, when you raise a child, you never imagine they'll grow up and look at you like a stranger. You think no matter what happens, they'll remember your hands, the ones that held them when they were sick, the arms that rocked them to sleep, the heart that beat only for them. But life has a funny way of testing what we think we know. My name is Margaret Collins, and I'm 67 years old. I live in a little town in Maplewood, Ohio, quiet, safe, the kind of place where neighbors wave even if they don't remember your name. I've lived in the same house for 41 years. Its small white paint peeling on the porch rails, a wind chime that never stops singing by the kitchen window. My husband, Henry, built this house with his own hands before he passed. Now it's just me, and the ghosts of laughter that once filled every corner. And of course my daughter Emily. My pride, my everything. At least she used to be. Emily was always the brightest girl in the room. She was bold, stubborn, and smarter than I ever was. The kind of child teachers adored, always with her hand up, always a plan in her eyes. When Henry died, she was only 15. And I remember that day like a photograph I can't burn. Her face was blank, like she'd lost the color of childhood overnight. I tried to hold her. I tried to remind her that she wasn't alone, but she just stared past me and whispered, "You couldn't save him." Those words, they lodged in me like a thorn that never healed. Years went by, she went off to college in the city. She barely called. And I told myself it was normal that kids grow distant, that independence means silence sometimes. But every time the phone didn't ring, I'd sit by the window, cup of tea cooling in my hands, watching cars pass. Hopping one would stop in front of the house, and she'd come running up the porch like she used to. That never happened. When Emily turned 36, she came back to Maplewood. Not for me, but because life had gone sideways for her. A bad divorce, some debts. She called one morning after almost 6 years of nothing and said, "Mom, I just need to stay a few weeks, until I get back on my feet." My heart jumped. I didn't care why she was coming. My baby was coming home. I spent the whole day scrubbing the house, baking her favorite lemon pie, putting fresh sheets on her bed, opening the windows to let the spring air in. When she arrived, she looked older, not just in age, in spirit. Her eyes were tired, makeup smudged from crying on the drive. "Hey, Mom," she said flatly, stepping past me into the house. No hug, no warmth, just a polite ghost of who she once was. Still I smiled. "Welcome home, sweetheart." At first I thought it would get better. I thought we'd talk again, cook together, maybe laugh about the old days. But instead, she treated me like furniture. She'd stay in her room all day, job hunting on her laptop, slamming doors, snapping whenever I tried to talk. Once I brought her tea, like I used to when she studied in high school. She didn't even look up from her screen. "Mom, please stop hovering, you're just in the way." In the way. 3 words that made the room tilt. I backed out quietly, trying to smile, but that night I cried into Henry's old pillow until morning light crept through the blinds. One afternoon I overheard her on the phone, packing the living room, voice sharp with anger. "I can't get a loan, Brad, my credit's trashed, I don't have savings. Mom's useless, she can barely afford her meds." I froze. Those words, "Mom's useless." She didn't know I was standing in the kitchen doorway. She didn't know those words would echo in my bones for weeks. I wanted to shout, to remind her of every sacrifice, the double shifts, the nights I skipped dinner so she could have seconds, the way I sold Henry's truck so she could go to college. But I didn't say a word. I just turned, quietly walked back to my room and sat on the edge of the bed. That's when something inside me shifted. Not anger, not bitterness, but clarity. Maybe I was useless to her, but maybe that's because she'd forgotten what real love looked like. The next morning, I took out an old metal box from under my bed, the one I'd kept since Henry's death. Inside were my savings, not much, but a lifetime of careful living. $62,000, every penny from odd jobs, sewing, tutoring, and a small pension. I looked at that money and thought, this could help her start over. But money alone wouldn't fix what was broken between us. So I made a decision, one that would test whether she still remembered the woman who raised her. That evening I made her dinner, her favorite baked chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans with garlic butter. She came to the table late, scrolling her phone. "Mom, I told you I'm not hungry." "Just sit for a minute, honey," I said softly. "There's something I want to tell you." She sighed, set her phone down. "Okay, what?" I took a breath. "I've been thinking about what you said the other day, about me being useless." Her eyes widened, guilt flickering across her face. "You heard that?" I nodded gently. "I did, and it's all right, Emily. Maybe you're right, but I want to do one last thing for you, something that might help." I slid the envelope across the table. Inside, a check for the full amount. She blinked. "Mom, what is this?" "My savings," I said. "All of it. I want you to have it to get a fresh start, but there's one condition." And that is where everything changed. Emily stared at the envelope like it was a ghost. She touched it carefully, as if it might vanish. "Mom," she whispered, "what are you talking about? You can't just give me your life savings." I smiled a little. "Sweetheart, I'm old, I don't need much. The house is paid off, my bills are small, you still have a whole life ahead of you." She looked down, her throat tightening. "But $60,000, Mom." 62, I corrected gently. "Henry and I were always savers." She swallowed hard, running her fingers over the paper. And for a second, just a second, I saw that little girl again. The one who used to climb into my lap after scraping her knees, asking if money could fix everything. Now she was grown. And she knew the answer was no. "Mom," she said quietly, "you said there's a condition." I nodded, "Yes, just one." She leaned in. "What is it?" I took a deep breath and looked her in the eye. "I'll give you this money, Emily, every penny, but I want you to spend 1 week with me, just one, like we used to when you were little. No phone, no work, no running off to your room. We'll cook together, take walks, talk, live under the same roof like family again." She frowned. "That's it." "That's it," I said softly. 7 days after that, the money is yours." She laughed a dry, nervous laugh. "Mom, that's ridiculous. What are we even going to do for a week?" "Be together," I said simply. "That's all." She sighed and leaned back, staring at the ceiling. "You really don't have to do this." "I know," I said, "but I want to." She didn't agree right away. It took her 2 days, 2 long, silent days where she barely spoke to me, where I heard her packing at night in her room, probably thinking I'd lost my mind. But on the 3rd morning I found her in the kitchen, hair messy, mug in her hand. "All right," she muttered, "a week, I'll do it." I smiled. "You'll do it?" "Yeah," she said, rolling her eyes, "but after that I'm gone, deal?" "Deals?" We started small. I made pancakes. She burned the first batch. We laughed a real laugh for the first time in years. She asked about the garden, the neighbours, things she hadn't cared about before. I showed her Henry's old workshop, dusty tools, jars of screws, a photo of him on the wall. She touched the picture and said softly, "I still miss him." "I know," I said, "I do too." and something warm flickered between us, not forgiveness yet, but maybe the memory of it. By the third day, the house started to feel alive again. She helped me repaint the porch railing, her hair tied up like she used to when she was 15. We sang along to the radio out of tune, laughing until our stomachs hurt. That night we ate dinner on the porch. Fireflies danced over the grass, the air smelled like summer rain. "Mom," she said quietly, "I forgot how peaceful this place is." "You never liked it much growing up," I said with a smile. "I didn't understand it then," she said. "Now I do." On the 5th day it rained. Heavy grey rain that kept us inside, wrapped in blankets with coffee mugs warming our hands. We watched old home videos, Henry in the yard, teaching Emily to ride her bike, her falling, crying, then laughing when he lifted her up again. I looked over at her and saw tears streaming down her face. She turned to me and whispered, "I was so cruel to you, was I?" My eyes burned. "You were hurt, honey. People hurt others when they're hurting themselves." She shook her head. "No, I took everything out on you. You didn't deserve that, you never did." And then, for the first time in more than 20 years, she reached for me. Her arms wrapped around me tight, and I felt her shaking, crying into my shoulder the way she used to when her father died. I stroked her hair and whispered, "It's all right, you came home, that's all that matters." On the morning of the 7th day, she woke up early, earlier than I did, and made breakfast. Eggs, toast, coffee, just the way I like it. "Mom," she said quietly, setting the plate in front of me, "I've been thinking about the money." I looked at her. "You've earned it, we had our week." She shook her head. "I don't want it." I blinked. "What do you mean?" "I came here thinking I needed money to fix my life," she said, her voice trembling. "But what I really needed was this, you, home. I forgot who I was, I forgot who you were. You're not useless, Mom, you're the strongest person I know." Tears rolled down my cheeks before I could stop them. I tried to speak, but she squeezed my hand. "I'll be okay," she said. "Keep your savings, use it for yourself or maybe for the house, for Dad's garden." I wanted to tell her how proud I was, how those words healed something that had been bleeding in me for years. But I didn't. I just smiled, reached across the table and said, "Then promise me one thing, Emily." She looked up. "Anything." "Promise you'll never forget that you are loved, even when you don't think you deserve it." She nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. "I promise." That night, as she packed her bags, I felt something I hadn't felt in decades, peace. Not because I gave her money, but because I gave her something far rarer. A chance to remember what love really looks like. When Emily drove away that morning, the sun was just rising, the kind of golden light that makes the world look softer, forgiving. Her car turned down the road, and for the first time in years I didn't feel hollow watching her leave. Because this time she wasn't running away. She was returning to her life lighter. And I knew she'd come back, not out of need but out of love. It's funny how life can shift when you stop holding on to pain. 3 months later I got a letter in the mail. A real letter, handwritten, with my daughter's familiar looped handwriting. Inside was a photo, Emily standing in front of a small coffee shop with a sign that read Maple & Co. Coffee House. On the back she'd written, "Use some of the money to start this, Mom. I named it after Maplewood. I thought you'd like that. There's a chair by the window with your name on it. Come visit soon, I love you." I held that photo against my heart and cried, not out of sadness but gratitude. Sometimes love doesn't need to be shouted or proven with grand gestures. Sometimes it's as simple as a quiet week, a meal shared, a memory mended. That week we spent together, it didn't just save her, it saved me too. Because I realized something important. You're never useless when you love. You're never forgotten when your heart still beats for someone else. A year later, Emily came home again. This time not with tears or exhaustion, but with laughter. She brought coffee beans from her shop and a plant for the porch. She hugged me tight and said, "Mom, I tell everyone about your condition." I laughed. "My what?" "You know the 1 week rule," she said, smiling. "I tell customers to take 1 week away from everything, to be with someone they love. No phones, no noise, no running, just being, like you taught me." I smiled through my tears. That's a good condition to spread around. That night, as we sat on the porch, the fireflies came out again, just like before. She leaned her head on my shoulder, and I felt her breathing steady and calm. And in that moment, I thought of Henry, of all the years we spent building this little home, and I whispered into the warm air, "She came back, Henry, she finally came back." The wind rustled the chimes softly, and for a moment I could almost hear his laugh in the sound. You see, life doesn't measure us by what we earn or own, or even by how the world sees us. It measures us by the love we give, and how bravely we give it, even when it's not returned. If someone you love has forgotten your worth, don't waste your breath proving it. Just love them quietly, with patience, with grace, and trust that time will do what pride never can. Because sometimes, the greatest gift you can give someone is not money or advice or correction. It's your presence, your forgiveness, your unconditional love. This was my story. My daughter once called me useless, but love turned that word into something beautiful. Because when I gave her my savings, I thought I was giving away everything I had left. But in truth, I was only beginning to receive. If this story touched your heart, take a deep breath and think of the one person you love, even if things aren't perfect between you. Send them a message. Call them. Forgive them. Because one day, when the porch is quiet and the world slows down, what you'll remember won't be the words that hurt, but the moments that healed. And if you'd like to hear more true stories of love, loss, and redemption, make sure to subscribe, share this story, and join me again for another whisper from the heart.